Welcome to Essential EGL+Batch. This video series is based upon EGL Development Tools version 0.8. And in today's lesson we're going to deal with an array of records. This is lesson 14. So we'll create a package called lab.lesson14. And the first thing we want to do is create a new source file that's called sample info. And we'll put a couple of records in here, sample info and sample info FL for fixed length. In sample info we'll have 3 fields. In sample info FL we're going to have 4 fields, but they're going to be the same names. Sample info FL is actually going to be used to print the information to the console. So we want to change the type to all strings. That's it for sample info. Let's create sample lib. And we're using a new source file to create the library. And this is our usual library. Inside of a function called array of records, I'm creating a variable called list, and it's going to be a sample info array. So it's going to be an array of records. And to populate the record, it's inside the square brackets with a new keyword. We'll populate each record. And then within the curly brace, we can set the value of each field. And I'm going to do that several more times. And then I'm going to use the EGL source and format to make it look good. And EGL nicely aligns them up based on the new keyword. Next, we're going to display the sample info array. So we'll be able to see what the array looks like at that point. And I'll paste that in. Now this is using none of the fixed length strings. That's not using a record format to display the header. It's not using it's using all the equations. So let's create a program called lesson 14, and we'll put in the usual stuff so that main calls sample lib.demo, and we'll take this for a test drive. I'll click on the console icon, and this is what it looks like. So we're able to have 4 records in our array, and it's printed out using all this. Now let's do a more EGL way of doing things with display sample info array FL, and we'll use a fixed length record to display the data in our array. And it looks something like that. So we're actually using an instance of, or a record for the header, and then we're using the same record for each line. So what does that look like? Let's see. I'll click on the console icon, bring up the console, and that's the array. We'll get back to that in a second about formatting it. Then we want to update the array. So after we have our initial list, we're going to update the array, and after we update the array, we're going to print out the list. Now an update array, what we're going to do is iterate through the list, and it started out with code that iterates by counting up. We've seen that code before, but we're going to change this, convert this to the for each syntax, and that's that happens in the real world, where you really should refactor the code to use for each rather than count up. This is adding one to the sides and increasing the price. It's also adding another record to the end of the list. So let's take this for a test drive and see what we have so far. So in the second list, it's going to have one additional record. But we notice that the columns don't line up quite right. Well, it's because this really should be fixed length strings. I'm going to change them all to the 20 characters. And that forces the columns to line up. And it forces actually the header. It really does force it that the widest possible column is limited there for both the header and the detail lines, so that they will line up. And then for maintainability, it's easy to go and change the record, make the column a little bit more narrow. This is another lesson in Essential EGL Batch. Thanks for watching.